Here we are for another round of the 70s versus the 90s, and it's real girl tough when I put Jack Hill's Switchblade Sisters against Annette Haywood-Carter's Foxfire. And this one was a wild one to get through. Both of these movies are something else, so let's just dive right on into it. The first up, we have Jack Hill's Switchblade Sisters, which in a lot of ways was his last film because after this, he did a film called Sorceress that he got like fired from and stuff, and then he never made a film since. So in all actuality, you can basically consider Switchblade Sisters his last film, and it may very well be his masterpiece. The film centers around a girl gang called the Dagger Debs, and it's led by Lace, who's played very sinisterly intense by Robbie Lee, who, coming off of like her real like cutesy naive role in Big Bad Mama, she definitely is a far cry from that. She's doing her best to overcome her squeaky chipmunk sounding voice. She does that, grits her teeth. She puts her like best Cagney impression on and stuff. And, in my opinion, she really nails it, because Lace is a very tragic figure, of course. Now, she's the main squeeze of the head of the Silver Daggers, Dominic, played by Asher Bronner, who, if he just had just an ounce more intensity, he could have been an even better actor than Al Pacino. They both have like similar acting styles where they like to yell and throw things and stuff. And there are moments where like when he yells in a very heated exchange, it's almost laughable, but he has a certain intensity. This guy clearly like came up through the method, but just, another tragic story of like great actors who were in exploitation films that didn't go very far and stuff. And the real trouble sets in when a fucking new girl in town, Maggie, played by Joanne Nail, who's a fucking smoke show in this movie, and definitely not somebody to be trifled with. She's got a little like fucking wire thing that she wears like a belt, and she uses that like some kind of fucking like kung fu master and shit. Like she can really whoop some ass. Like she fucks people up with that little fucking wire belt thing, And so they have a little altercation in the fucking hamburger joint that everybody goes to, and then like they through fucking girl reformatory school, they end up kind of becoming friends and stuff, Maggie and Lace. But of course, Lace's best friend, Patch, played, even more sinisterly by Monica Gale. Like she really chews the scenery in this film. And, of course, there's a lot of sapphic undertones, because they're best friends. But like Patch is clearly a lesbian and has a fucking thing for Lace and stuff. That's why she's always, she can deal with, her fucking Dominic, but she definitely can't deal with her being friends with Maggie and stuff. And then, of course, she perceives Maggie as the biggest threat, and she's trying to get shit back to the status quo and everything. But, shit escalates. You got that Krabs dude that's muscling in on their territory. It's got a little bit of a gang war going on. And mind you, all this shit's going on in a high school. Like, these are teenagers, basically. A lot of them don't really look like teenagers and everything. But in one of the members of the Dagger Debs is Kitty Bruce, Donut, who plays Donut. And Kitty Bruce, of course, was Lenny Bruce's daughter. So that in and of itself is pretty wild. And then, of course, there's also Bunny, played by Janice Carmen, who is just, she's a smoke show too. And it's what's beautiful about Switchblade Sisters, this is one of the greatest, if not the greatest, feminist film of all time. Not to mention probably the greatest girl gang movie ever made, because they go from being the Dagger Debs to the Jezebels. What they do after Dominic is killed at the roller rink, which is a fucking nut show of fucking a shootout at a roller rink. That shit's pretty wild. That fucking shot where Maggie fucking snaps that fucking sawed-off shotgun with that fucking belt thing, and oh man, that shit is pure fun. Because this is 90 minutes of solid action and laughs, with a bunch of subtext to go around, feminism, social commentary, and even a bit of that sapphic shit, and so then they get rid of the male element, fucking Hook's bitch ass, who is fucking the Bob from That 70s Show, Don Stark. And, so these women basically become their own, because Bunny was being pimped out by Hook, and she tells that motherfucker to take a walk. They're claiming their own life and shit and all this stuff, and they team up with a bunch of black revolutionary females, led by Marlene Clark, who is exceptional. She's one of the best lines in the film. Is like pretty soon, sooner or later, every woman realizes the only thing a man has below his belt is clay feet. And and when they team up with these black revolutionaries. They fucking get rid of Krabs and his fucking capitalist gangster group and shit. And then, of course, they finally have a final. They duke it out because, of course, everybody wants Maggie to be running shit. And then Lace, she's trying to claim her, keep her fucking claim. So they fucking fight it out with Switch, which is one of the most, like, well choreographed fucking fight scenes that I've ever seen. And that ending where it's just a shadow and the fucking switchblade to the throat. Fucking brilliant. And what an ending, because Maggie, all defiant, getting thrown into that fucking police van, she gives a hell of a fucking monologue that punctuates the film perfectly. And it just ends like, you better watch your ass, pigs. So the whole movie is just fucking, like I said, 90 minutes of solid entertainment. Like, this is like a staple of exploitation cinema and also like feminist cinema. Jack Hill was one of the greatest writer directors of that era and type of film and shit. And like I said, this was clearly his masterpiece. And we move forward to Foxfire, directed by Annette Haywood-Carter, in a star-making role by Angelina Jolie. And the film follows like a group of girls who are kind of brought together by circumstance, because there's a fucking gym/science teacher that's fucking, real sleazy. He's fucking around with these girls in high school and stuff. And they get wind of it. And you got like this drifter chick, real mysterious, played by Angelina Jolie, name's Legs in the movie. Her whole thing is to like protect these women from these fucked off dudes and shit. And they really like, they fucking muscle the fucking science teacher and shit. And, say you fuck with her again, we're gonna, the girl that he was fucking with, I'll fucking cut your nuts off with a pair of nail clippers and shit, So it's like pretty fucking intense. So they get suspended from school from that. And then they end up, like, the fucking football players think that they're fucking lying about it and shit. So then they try to rape the one chick played by Madeline, played by Hetty Burris. Her and Angelina Jolie are the best ones in the film. The rest of the cast, they play their parts the way they need to be played. I wouldn't say that the acting is that much better than in Switchblade Sisters. There's definitely more intensity in Switchblade Sisters. And definitely there's also that sapphic undertones in Foxfire. It's about these women trying to like really claim their life and not be fucking ruled by, sleazy ass men and shit. But it does have a killer soundtrack. Of course, a lot of that fucking sad rock music from the mid 90s and stuff, shit like Mazzy Star and Candlebox, that really accentuates the film, but it doesn't really pack that punch. And of course, like the fucking Legs and Madeline kind of have a little romance and stuff, it's not too emphasized and shit, but like that's the fucking girl that you want to have in your corner when shit goes down. But also like it's that ending too after they get everything done, because even the Asian girl that has the fucking doctor for a father, that he's a real piece of shit, and then they fucking kidnap him, and then he ends up shot. It's just kind of like a bunch of fucking actions. And then like, oh no, consequences. And then, they just kind of shy away from the shit. They don't ever go the whole hog and stuff, except for when they were beating the fuck out of that science teacher and shit, They damn near burned down the school and stuff. So it's like, it's really just a bunch of silly ass girls doing shit. It doesn't go as far as it could, that ending is almost devastating, because, she could have, that Hetty Burris chick could have run off with Angelina Jolie's character, but they don't. And so she ends up climbing that fucking bridge and stuff. Is like a way of like, oh, I'm free now. I've been on. And, it has that voiceover that begins and ends the film because she is the narrator of the film. And it just doesn't pack that punch that Switchblade Sisters does. So this round clearly has to go to Switchblade Sisters because that's a true feminist film. It's not something that like it's not weak in any sense of the means. It's the toughest gang of teenage girls ever to slash their way across a motion picture screen, as the trailer says. And it's like Foxfire could be a great movie. It's kind of like Girl Interrupted. It's like half a great movie. I feel like the stars in it are more intriguing than the actual film itself. Because like it's pretty bait. Like even that chick that was gonna help those football players get away with trying to rape that chick. She comes forward. It's like, I really don't think that chick would have had a fucking conscience and stuff, but the film likes to believe that she would. So, but it just doesn't, it falls flat, So for anybody keeping score, that's 48-40. 70s are up by 8. They're getting their lead wider and wider as we speak. Because, man, with shit like Switchblade Sisters, it's hard to fucking compare. This round wasn't even really fair, because You know, something like Foxfire, it's kind of fucking weak. Now, Angelina Jolie gives a great performance, but her performance, and even Hetty Burris is great, but those performances cannot equal the level of intensity and sheer insanity that is Switchblade Sisters, you know, because it's like I said, that's a movie where like the women take control from the men and finally rule the society and stuff. Now, granted, they all go to prison in the end, but you know, really, that's merely the beginning. You know, they've opened the floodgates and shit. With Foxfire, I'm like, most of these chicks probably just end up back in a fucking rut. Sure, they got the one chick in rehab, the other one gets to see the world. Who the fuck knows what happened to legs? You know, it's just this kind of romantic mysteriousness. You know, the beauty of Switchblade Sisters, there ain't shit that's romantic about it. It's fucking in your face. It's edgy, and like I said, 90 minutes of solid entertainment. And you know, because like shit like Foxfire, you know, kind of puts you to fucking sleep. So if I've said anything wrong, anything you disagree with, feel free to eviscerate me in the comments. All this shit's up for debate. This is the opinion of one asshole who loves the cinema. And, you know, if you don't like it, that's what the comment section is for. Because I'm open to all suggestions and ideas. Do I have to like them? Fuck no. Do you have to like my shit? Fuck no. You know, but it is what it is. You know, this way they gave every idiot a fucking platform to voice their opinion. I'm just using that platform. So, like I said, 48-40, 70s are up by 8. Like I said, probably the greatest decade, you know, in the fucking history of cinema. And, you know, I'm going through this scientific journey to prove that shit. So, like, any suggestions for upcoming matchups? The next big main event is Kelly's Heroes versus Three Kings. So, like I said, it's only heating up, and I got to know.